This is your wake-up call, Dearborn!
When this group of protesters waved their signs plastered with sayings like Islam is a religion of blood and murder, many at the Arab International Festival saw hate.
We're here to Dearborn because they have issues with free speech.
Good evening and welcome to the rest of the news. Our special guest today is Ed Holloway, who is a former state representative. And there's been a lot going on in the news lately. You know, there have been two episodes of people here in America that have had their heads cut off by Muslim terrorists. And of course the media tries to play that down. This article that I read in World News Daily saying another 75,000 refugees are coming to America, and mostly from Syria, but most of them are Muslims.
Right, the majority. And this is happening all over the United States, and it's increasing in Jefferson County. Here in Kentucky, 15% of our population now are immigrants, 15%. And we just got the first group of Syrian refugees on February the 3rd, and there are more families to follow. And before that, we've had several other groups, and we've got a large majority here. And they've even at this point formed an Arabic newspaper.
Yeah, I saw that.
Most of them cannot speak. They're given Section 8 housing, they're given this, they're putting under Medicaid, and on and on and on, and it's a tremendous expense at the taxpayers. And at the same time, we're doing all of that, our borders, they talk about, well, there's no more of these young people and all that. Well, there are 2,000 a month have been coming in, most of them teenagers, since the first of the year, 2,000 a month. That's an increasing number there. So all of these things that are going on simultaneously are not being reported by the media, and we've got a real problem there. And the growing thing in Jefferson County with the Muslim community, and they're having fundraisers and they're doing other things, and the thing about it is that they're excluding Christians and other infidels from participating in a lot of the activities. And the most recent thing we just found out is the leader of CARE, which is the Council of American Islamic Relations. Issam Bagby is the president of the board and the Islamic Studies professor at the University of Kentucky. And he's a member of the CARE's national board from 1995 to 2013. He's also a member of the Islamic Society of North America, several other organizations. But when we looked at CARE once before, their Liberty Project, where they were testing some 8,000, or targeting our libraries, over 8,000 libraries, are putting all this Muslim information in, videos and other information, to sanitize Islam and say there's not a threat. Yeah. And then the Muslim Students Association, Kentucky has a chapter of that. They're now on 150 campuses, and it's one of the nation's largest college groups. And you go on and on and on, but all this stuff is constantly building. And doing a little research on where all this started, and it was kind of ironic because 328 years ago, in 1683, the Muslims were about to take Vienna, Austria. And Vienna was about to do it, and they were able to muster enough Christians from Poland, Lithuania, and several other countries to stop that.
Yeah.
Well, the Muslims now think that was a humiliating event. And the second one was in 1492, when Isabel and Ferdinand of Spain were removing the Moors from the continent with the Spanish people and moved them back to North Africa. The Moors were another Islamic group that had been there for 700 years. And I happened to be at an event in Morocco one time when a gentleman was having his son come of age, and they had a sort of a ceremony. And at that time, he passed to him the keys to their home in Spain. He said, I may not in my lifetime go back, but you will. And this is the kind of thing that people don't understand, the patience and the constant thought of going back and taking over caliphate. When they were defeated in 1923 with the breakup of the Ottoman Empire,
Yeah.
and the creation of Turkey and a lot of other things, and then the British and French had separated all the countries, created all these boundaries that has infuriated those people. They could not do anything about it. So then there was an organization called the Taliban and others that got involved, and we had Afghanistan to stop the Russian invasion. We were preoccupied in those days with the Cold War, the United States versus Russia. And we didn't think about all the fallout, but we supported the Taliban. And Taliban in Arabic translates to student. And the student came from the fact that those people studied the Quran by rote and read all of the documents and writings of Muhammad. And they think the time to bring the caliphate back into existence and dominate the world so that we can live in a perfect environment as far as the Islamic world is concerned. And they've been fighting ever since. We'd abandoned everything when the Russians pulled out. And they've used that as the focal point. And they started, the first thing that the Taliban did was destroy the Marine barracks in Beirut.
Yeah.
And then the embassies in Kenya and some other places, and then the sinking of the Cole, a naval ship.
Yeah.
And all of those things have been going on simultaneously. Each one of them they view as a success, and they're using that to recruit additional people. And there are over 1,000 a month from all over Europe and the United States that are joining Islam. So it's a continuing battle, and it's something we need to be aware of and totally keep our eye on what is happening and not let the propaganda that's being disseminated keep us from focusing on the real intent.
People might ask, well, what difference does it make if a few Muslims come here or there or something? But, you know, the thing that bothers me the most is the situation up in Dearborn, Michigan, where there's been really a huge number of Muslims come in, and they kind of put in Sharia law, okay, and they have 4 wives, and if their daughter goes out with someone who's not a Muslim, well, they're liable to have what they call an honor killing.
Exactly.
They kill the girl. You know, few years back, there were some missionaries that went into Dearborn when they had like an Islamic
Festival,
fair, festival, and well, they threw rocks at them.
Grab that so they don't keep blowing.
Get behind me. Get behind me.
And so what happened, the reason why this is going on now is because of what happened last year. What happened last year is you allowed it to escalate into this. And so, you guys just lost a lawsuit on free speech and you want to do it again.
Okay.
Why don't you get us the bullpen that we asked for in the email?
Okay, well, that's a free speech zone, and the Chamber of Commerce decided that they did not want a free speech zone.
They're not under our Constitution. They're not under our laws. They are just setting up their own situation.
I think the professor at the University of Kentucky, Professor Bagley, who we just talked about earlier, as one of the board members and all that, he was recorded as saying that ultimately we Muslims can never be full citizens of this country, because there is no way we can fully commit to the institutions and ideologies of this country.
Freedom. They don't want freedom.
Well, they don't want this because they think under Islamic law and Sharia law, it's the perfect existence for all members of the Muslim community. And if you're not an infidel, and that doesn't mean whether you're a Christian, an atheist, or a Jewish, or any other segment, you're an infidel.
Yeah.
And you are either submitted and joining Islam and become a Muslim, or you become a second-class citizen that's taxed to the hilt until they decide that you're no longer useful, and then you're exterminated.
Well, now, this situation in Dearborn, the police were there when they started throwing rocks at the missionaries, and the police just looked the other way.
Right.
And then they came and told the missionaries, you're going to have to leave, or else we're going to put you in jail. So here's the situation. You've got these Muslim terrorists that are taking over sections of our country, getting rid of our Constitution, getting rid of our laws, marrying 4 wives, and if the daughter doesn't do things the way they wanted, they're going to kill her.
Right. We can use Britain as a classic example, because the thing has been going on over there to this point, and in France and others, where they have these no-go zones where you cannot go into that area. Law enforcement or nobody else can, and they're running it under Sharia law. And even some of the courts in Britain in certain communities have allowed and now are operating under Sharia law.
Right.
So they're having a tremendous problem, and they only have about 5% of the population that are Muslim, but it's a growing number. And there's another factor that because of the 4 wives and mother, their children, their birth rate far exceeds that of the rest of the country.
Yes.
And they're growing in every one of these communities. And this is their ultimate goal. And they're extremely patient. They've been doing this for over 600 years, but they have now had the opportunity and the equipment in terms of technology and other things that they're using now that was never available before. The tremendous amount of work they're doing on the internet, with Facebook and other forms of communication, and recruiting young people. They've been working in our prisons. The clerics have been in there for several years and are recruiting constantly members of the prison population and are converting to Islam, and on and on and on, because it's been a breakdown for a long period of time. The Muslim Brotherhood, which is another front organization of over 100 subcultures that they're underneath and they support, have been in this country for a number of years. They've been to the White House a number of times.
Absolutely.
And we tried to pacify, why can't we all get along? And it's really significant that the attack on the World Trade Centers on September the 11th. The significance of September 11th, we've had that happen several times.
Yes.
That was the date that they were defeated in Vienna 638 years ago. And these are the kind of things that they constantly drum into their children as they're coming along. We've even got pictures now and videos of young children shooting infidels.
Yeah, I
in
saw
other
that. Unbelievable.
and the terrorism that's going on in places like Syria, where all the Christian communities are being destroyed, the people are being executed and beheaded in this.
Yes.
And all of these things are going on, and our national media has been ignoring it.
Yes.
And because of our regulations, our political correctness, and on and on and on, nothing is going to change till we make some dramatic changes in the leadership and the rest of it. And what's happened in the past is that people have been cowed to the point that they don't, well, my vote wouldn't count and all that.
Oh, mercy.
And the largest percentage of the people that are there that don't bother to vote could have changed a number of
Yes.
elections and constantly. And we've got a primary coming up in Kentucky for governor, which is now Forbes magazine listed Kentucky as one that's on a suicide binge.
Oh, because of the debt, for government workers.
They tried to get a bill through to put a $30 billion bond issue for paying to up the teacher retirement system. I experienced that over the years where they borrowed money, took money out of that, the teacher's retirement, to balance the budget. Constitution says you have to have a balanced budget in Kentucky. Well, in that process, they took the money out of that. It was never repaid. The interest and all that it would have been earning was not generated to that point. So now we have this tremendous unfunded liability of Kentucky that's over $40 billion.
One of the largest in the country.
We're in the top 5 in the country, right up there with California and the rest of them. So we've got all those things going, and it's a serious matter that we have to address, and it's going to depend on we as individual citizens to make sure we select a candidate, that we vote for that candidate, and we go to the polls collectively.
Now, this is the postcard for this meeting, and it's coming up Saturday, April 11th. That's just a few days off. And it's at 12 noon, and it's at Evangel Church, 5400 Miners Lane. And there'll be a free home-cooked lunch with sandwiches for everybody, and it's all free. And all of the governor candidates are either going to be there or have somebody to represent them.
Okay.
And so it's going to be a very informative meeting, and everybody is invited. There's free admission. Okay, and the other thing is, just like you were saying, voter registration is very important. So we're going to have voter registration cards there. We're going to have signs that you can put up in your church and have voter registration in your church. This is extremely important. Only half the Christians are voting.
Exactly.
And like you say, if they all voted, we could win any election.
And the classic example is the primaries. People don't bother. Less than 10% of the people who are eligible to vote don't even bother to vote in a primary. So when you get to the general election, you don't really have a choice. The choices are made at the primaries.
Okay, now here's some DVDs about what we were talking about. Okay, here's the two. This is about Islam over the last 600 years, and how it's in the White House now, and the Homeland Security and all of that. They're putting the fox in charge of the hen house.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's all documented in this free video. And here is another video where it talks about how all of these Muslim terrorists are being brought into our country and given Section 8 housing and all the welfare and everything, aid for dependent children, and you and I are paying for these terrorists to set up no-go zones all over our country. We've got to register and vote because all of this is coming to a head now. So we'd like to send you these 2 videos as soon as you call us. And the number is 893-2444. And there's also a video about what happened in Dearborn, Michigan, where they tried to throw bottles and everything at these missionaries. And the police looked the other way and then said, oh, well, the missionaries are at fault. So it's really amazing, and to see what's happening right now in our country today. So give us a call right now, 893-2444. And the other thing we can do is let us know if you're going to be able to come to this candidate night so we make sure we have enough food for everybody.
Well, we've got an opportunity, and I'm not talking about all refugees. There's some legitimate,
yes,
but the problem is that there's no screening taking place. And we've built so many regulations and some other stuff, and the growth of that, there are thousands of them. There's over $1 trillion being spent to try to conform with regulations. Hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents that are facing everybody. I'll give you a classic example. We won the Civil War in 4 years. We won the Second World War when we had to build a total mobilization of the United States Army. We built tanks, we built airplanes, we did all of that stuff, and ended the war in 3 years and 8 months. A classic example of where we are today. It took 23 years to build a 5th runway at Atlanta Airport. Valerie Jarrett, the top advisor of the President of the United States, calls herself an Iranian American. She was raised, and her father was an MD, a doctor at a hospital in Iran. She grew up in Iran, has all these Iranian friends. She's been doing a backdoor kind of negotiations with them. The top aide to Hillary Clinton is a Muslim, and one who has been involved in several things. And it goes on. Her father, her mother, her brother are all leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood,
which is the terrorist organization.
Which is a front for most of the terrorist organizations. So these are the kind of things that have been influencing the elected officials and others to say, well, it's not going to be like this, it's not going to be like that, and they're building and building and building. So this is where we have to come back. But when you look at the problems we've built in government growth, and then there are several things that can be done. We have look at the terrorist organizations like North Korea, who are building ICBM missiles. They have the control of the atomic things and nuclear warheads. And we only have on the West Coast a couple locations in California, one in Alaska, that have the defense system. And there's a thing called EMP, electronic magnetic pulse, that can totally fry every computer chip in a given area, including the whole country if they've had it off at a certain level. So all of those things we're no defense against, and there was nothing being done. And we've got all this money going into the defense industry, not to the military, but to the contractors that are supplying them. And we need a law to stop any member of Congress from being a stockholder in these companies they're voting to give contracts to. So these are the kind of things that have been creeping along for years and years, and the average person who just wants to stay at home and take care of his raising their family, work at their job, and all those things, and they're not being involved.
Obama administration is overseeing sharp reduction in our military. The number of soldiers and Marines and airmen and Coast Guard and all of these are being cut. The number of ships are being cut. The number of airplanes are being cut.
Exactly, and we have less of the Navy than we had prior to World War I. And all of these things at the same time, all these other things are going on around the world, and all these terrorist organizations. I'm very conscious of what can go on in Pakistan, which has a large nuclear arsenal, and they are very threatened by the various Islamic terrorist organizations who could at any moment take over that country. You got the same thing going on in Jordan. In Amman and others, they got tens of thousands of refugees that have come in there, and the same thing ISIS is using as a cover to infill Jordan, and this is a whole purpose. And one of the things that really bothers me more than anything else is the attitude toward Israel.
Yeah.
Israel has been the only source of information and intelligence that we've been getting out of the Middle East for the last 4 decades. And in that process, now we've turned our back on them. And a lot of the liberal do-gooders that are out there are saying, well, if we just got rid of Israel, all this other stuff would go away.
Yeah.
And this is a frightening thing. Key is the elections that are coming up, that every Christian needs to be involved.
Absolutely.
And not only do that, but to convince their family, their neighbors, and others that the importance of this thing. Because without it, our founding fathers won't recognize anything that this country even looks like in the next decade.
Let me remind our viewers that these 2 videos are documentaries that back up what we've been talking about in the program today. They're free, and just give us a call, 893-2444. We'll send you these DVDs free. If no one's there to answer the phone, just leave your name, address, and phone number, and we'll get back with you. Now, here is a reminder that on Saturday, April 11th, which is just around the corner, at 12 noon at Evangel Church, 5400 Miners Lane, there's going to be a candidate night where all of the top candidates for governor and other offices are going to be there or have a representative. And it's all free. The lunch is free, more DVDs are there free, and the most important thing is voter registration. We'll have voter registrations for you to take to your church and sign to put up in the foyer of your church that there's voter registration available, because, you know, it's getting to be a real crisis, and we've got to get rid of some of the people that are working against our country. And a third thing that we're going to give you for free is this bumper sticker that says, "Together under God, we're invincible." Okay, if we work together, we can turn this whole thing around. But it takes everybody working together to turn it around.
Exactly. Well, we've covered a lot, and it's
unbelievable.
It's very frustrating for those of us who have been aware of this and watching it grow, and knowing that the only way we can do it and change things is for everybody, every Christian to be involved.
Yes.
And I want a little caution to the media. The extremists don't need the media anymore, the journalisms, because they've been executing them. And the reason is they've been replaced by YouTube. So they can communicate, and they're doing it right now, and they're recruiting.
Okay, I want to thank Ed Holloway for being on the program with us, and tune in again next week for the rest of the news.